Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video. The 1970s were for sure a big decade for lots of really good movies coming out. And, because, especially when, say, starting in 1975 and from there on, just hit after hit after hit. And in the very late 1970s, and I'm talking about, say, 1979, some big films had came out that year, and one of them, which being their first ever film, and where a visionary genius who, brought to life these iconic Muppets, and him bringing them to the big screen, just what more do I have to say? That's right. I am finally reviewing, from 1979, The Muppet Movie. Yes. The Muppet Movie from 1979, yeah. The Muppet Movie, what can you say about The Muppet Movie? It's a memorable, classic Muppet film, and this being the first ever Muppet film, and where Jim Henson wanted to have his Muppet characters go big time, get them on the big screen, and, how big he can take them, and especially with the technicians and so on, doing these kind of movies with Muppets, you name it. Yeah. The Muppet Movie, from beginning to end, is amazing, with the Muppet film's memorable cameos, its memorable songs, its funny moments, and how the Muppets, they're always good at delivering some emotional and heart, you get the point. Yeah. The Muppet Movie, for me, I actually didn't see it at a very young age. It wasn't one of my first Muppet films. Because some of the other Muppet materials that I had seen and watched were, say, The Muppet Show, and two Muppet films, which being The Muppet Christmas Carol and Muppets Take Manhattan. Those were some of my first two Muppet films. But a little later on, I did eventually see The Muppet Movie, and even when getting a DVD copy, and even seeing this on the big screen, because Fathom Events, they did a screening of the Muppet film, and it was a joy to see this on the big screen in all of its glory, and, yeah. And I gotta say, for me, The Muppet Movie, it is one of my top favorite Muppet films. I don't know what else to say, because this is the Muppet Movie I'm talking about and I'm reviewing now. Just, ugh. What more do I have to say? The Muppet Movie, a Muppet film masterpiece, and this being the first, of course. Yeah. Okay, so, as always, for me, read the description / the story. After Kermit the Frog decides to pursue a movie career, he starts his cross-country trip from Florida to California. Along the way, he meets and befriends Fozzie Bear, Miss Piggy, Gonzo, and rock musicians Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem. When Kermit is offered a job by Doc Hopper to advertise the fried frog legs at his restaurant chain, Kermit turns Hopper down. However, Hopper refuses to relent and pursues Kermit and his friend and his companions, well, also his friends, to a final showdown. Okay. So with that out of the way, a little bit of background. There's so much, but, not to go into full detail, long story short, Well, like I said, Jim Henson, he wanted to have his Muppet characters go big time and try to get them on the big screen, and even say when, before doing the Muppet Movie, around 1977, he and his fellow Muppeteers, they did Emmett Otter's Junk Band Christmas, and according to Paul Williams, Jim Henson explained to Paul that, Emmett Otter's Junk Band Christmas was a trial run to see if they can, do a theatrical feature-length Muppet film and to handle the technicians and etc. And you know what? Emmett Otter's Junk Band Christmas worked. Yeah, it showed that they can do this. They can handle these specific things, and in order to do a full-length feature film on the Muppets. And it was not long until, say, Jim and his fellow Muppeteers got attached with Universal Pictures, and they showed Universal Pictures test footage to show that the Muppets can work in the real world. And that's another thing, because Jim Henson really wanted his Muppets to be out there in the real world. Sure, because they've already, interacted with, the guest stars that they've had on The Muppet Show, but still, the Muppets really not out there and interacting with so many other people and handling certain things, yeah. And I've seen the test footage, and I'm sure you have too. It is out there on YouTube. Test footage for the Muppet movie, and again, them showing it to Universal and, proving that the Muppets can work in the real world. And obviously it must have convinced them that quick, just like that. And yeah, that's another thing, because Universal distributed this for quite a while. I mean, even when, say, the Muppet movie had been screened in theaters, most notably Fathom Events, well, Universal Pictures, still being the distributor. But of course, as of now, the Muppet movie being a part of Disney, so yeah. But that's really cool, and it seems kind of fitting for the Muppet movie being attached to Universal. Not to mention, they filmed some of the Muppet movie on the backlot of Universal, so yeah. And of course, with the movie coming out really good, and it turned out to be a success, and from there on, and, this was just the beginning of the Muppets doing other, down the road, feature-length films. Yeah, so, and as mentioned, Paul Williams, because, yeah, Emmett Otter's Junk Band Christmas was one of Paul Williams' first ever Muppet projects that he got himself involved in, writing the music and songs, and after that, he would, of course, wound up doing the Muppet movie, and from there on. So, yeah. Alright, so, with some background out of the way, getting into the film itself. Yeah, because, the movie opening, literally, because at a film studio, which being called Worldwide Studios, and one of the first Muppet characters we see are the two Muppet hecklers, Stadler and Waldorf. They've arrived for a private screening at, at the studio, seeing the Muppet movie, and, the gate guard being played by Bruce Kirby. Yeah, he's credited as the gate guard. Gentlemen, private screen, room D, etc. And Stadler and Waldorf, private screening. Yeah, they're afraid to show it in public. Oh. Yeah, that's a good joke. Yeah, and the many times that we would cut to Stadler and Waldorf and the jokes that they would have, pretty funny. And that's another thing, because you realize that Stadler and Waldorf, aside from them being in the private screening for the Muppet movie, they do not once show up, even when, say, Kermit and the gang are on the road. In fact, they were supposed to, even, there was one moment that they were on a camel, but that, of course, never made it into the final film, but yeah. So, yeah, seeing all of the other Muppets, and waiting for the movie to begin, and the interactions that they have, like Dr. Teeth saying to Crazy Harry, I hear this movie is one dynamite, and just, boom, and Animal having a funny moment, and yeah, and then Kermit stepping in and, thanking everybody and for their hard work, but Miss Piggy telling Kermit, let's talk, start the film, and Animal, roll film, and thus the film begins, and Robin, Kermit's little nephew, asking his uncle, if this is really, about how the Muppets came together and such, and how Kermit explains to Robin, and yeah. And the opening credits, and, well, one of the first song numbers being Rainbow Connection, of course. And how can you not enjoy and feel so emotional with the song Rainbow Connection? It's amazing. It's basically the Muppets' official anthem, right? It's just like for Disney, it's When You Wish Upon a Star. So there you go. And also, yeah, because Jim Henson, of course, being the main voice slash Muppeteer of Kermit. Fun fact, Jim was wanting to direct the Muppet movie, but Frank Oz and a bunch of other fellow Muppeteers, they told him that, he probably shouldn't because he doesn't want his hair to catch on fire and such, so much stress, and not go in the same route as, like, say, George Lucas, and thus, enter the late James Frawley, who would direct this, and you know what? He did a pretty good job at directing this, but at the same time, he found it so difficult doing the Muppet movie, but in the end, he succeeded. He did a great job directing this, don't you think? Yeah. Also, Jack Burns and Jerry Jewell, writers from The Muppet Show, them writing the Muppet movie, rightfully so. Yeah. And of course, most notably Jerry Jewell knowing how to do something Muppets. Yeah. So again, Rainbow Connection, a memorable Muppet song that Kermit sings. And right after that, well, enter one of the first cameos, which being the late legendary Dom DeLuise as Bernie, the agent. He's lost his way and, stumbles upon a banjo-playing frog, which of course being Kermit, asking Kermit to help him out to get to where he's specifically supposed to go. And, then Bernie, talking to Kermit and thinks that maybe Kermit has a shot at Hollywood, that there's auditions happening for frogs, to become rich and famous and to make millions of people happy. Kermit's not sure about this, but the more Bernie, convinces him into this and such, yeah. And there's a funny moment where Arnie the alligator shows up. And if anybody remembers Kermit's Swamp Years, we would get more of Arnie the alligator. And, well, because Kermit's Swamp Years is to take place, years before the events of the Muppet movie. So, yeah. So Kermit, he decides that maybe this is what he should do and make millions of people happy. And an amazing shot where we see Kermit riding on his bike, and if you've seen the behind-the-scenes footage, well, because they basically used rods and like a little bit of a marionette, so yeah, really cool. Especially when they would once again do it in The Great Muppet Caper. Yeah, so, and then there's one moment where Kermit sees a sign for, Doc Hopper's frog's legs and such. And, we then see this guy named Max being played by the one and only Austin Pendleton. Yeah, I said the last name right. Finding it really cool on, a frog riding a bicycle. However, he warns Kermit, watch out, because construction vehicles are closing in on Kermit. And, well, did Kermit make it? He did, yeah, so. And then a little later that day, Kermit finds himself at the El Sleazo Cafe. And as Kermit says, frogs gotta eat. And there's one moment where someone is thrown out of the El Sleazo Cafe, and we get another cameo, which being the late legendary James Coburn. And Kermit, saying to James Coburn's character, why don't you get the manager or the owner to complain about this, the commotion that's happening in El Sleazo Cafe. And Coburn's character is saying, I am the owner. Jeez, the owner of his own cafe getting booted out. Jeez. And yeah, Kermit making his way into the El Sleazo Cafe, a bunch of colorful characters and them just rambunctious and such. And even like stumbling upon one El Sleazo customer, El Sleazo patron, and another cameo, which being the late legendary Madeline Kahn. Yeah. Also, fun fact about the cameos in this, because they're all fantastic. There were some scheduling conflicts with the cameos that Jim and his fellow Muppeteers wanted for the Muppet movie, and what happened in the end is, well, all the cameos they ended up getting for the Muppet movie, well, all being legendary, movie stars at that time, yeah. So again, Madeline Kahn stepping in and want to buy me a drink and such, and her El Sleazo Thog, if I'm saying the last name right. Again, you know me sometimes. Played by the late Telly Savalas, I think I'm saying that right. You hitting on my girl, and then the whole thing they say of myth. No, myth. Yes, says Myth, being played by good old Carol Kane. And we would see that again later on, and until I get there. And, well, a showtime happens at the El Sleazo Cafe. Showtime at the El Sleazo Cafe, and we see a piano player, the El Sleazo pianist, being played by Paul Williams. Yeah, nice to see that the composer and songwriter for the Muppet movie gets a cameo in this. Well, not to mention, some of these cameos in the Muppet movie, including Paul Williams and James Coburn, they were some guest stars on The Muppet Show. And if you remember this and have seen The Muppet Show and know whom cameoed in the Muppet movie were guest stars on The Muppet Show. Yeah. So, again, showtime at the El Sleazo Cafe begins, and whom comes out to perform and entertain is the one, the only, Fozzie Bear. And how the El Sleazo pianist says. And yeah, enter Fozzie Bear, and Frank Oz, being the main voice / Muppeteer of Fozzie Bear, coming out to tell jokes old and rare, but the El Sleazo customers, they're already booing and giving Fozzie a hard time, not giving him a chance, and Kermit, he steps in to help out Fozzie, and, well, by dancing. And this is where we get a really cool shot where we see the full bodies of Fozzie and Kermit dancing. And then Max, who we saw earlier, stepping in and bringing in his boss to show him the frog that he saw earlier, and, well, right now, the frog is dancing. And Doc Hopper, being played by the late legendary Charles Durning. Yeah, Charles Durning playing the main antagonist of the Muppet movie, Doc Hopper, who really has his eyes on Kermit. And, well, then in the El Sleazo Cafe, things get out of hand. Kermit and Fozzie are being tossed around, and even when Fozzie, when he gets thrown at the main bar, the desk, the counter, he puts on a disguise, being the bartender and saying, "Hey, drinks on the house," and everybody flees, and Kermit, he got thrown into the piano. Also, there was a sign that Paul Williams' character whipped out, please do not shoot the piano. Well, of course, yeah. So yeah, and it doesn't take too long for Fozzie and Kermit to have a friendship, and Fozzie is interested in the same thing that Kermit is doing, going to Hollywood, and thus they come together and they ride in a Studebaker that was lended by Fozzie's uncle, yeah. And, well, even Fozzie mentioning that his uncle is hibernating. And then, at one point, they come face-to-face with Doc Hopper offering Kermit to work for him and can make him a star and such, because of his restaurant, Frog's Legs. But Kermit, he does not like this whatsoever. And I don't blame him, because, well, he is a frog. Frog's legs? Ugh. Anyways. So, yeah, Kermit and Fozzie, they step on it, and, well, Doc Hopper, he's not letting Kermit off the hook that easily. Well, then we come to our next memorable song number, moving right along, and I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong, but I think, yeah, from what I've seen and heard, a lot of people consider the Muppet movie one of the top best road trip films. That I will not deny, because pretty much I feel as though I too feel that it is. Yeah. Yeah, so the next song number, Moving Right Along, that Kermit and Fozzie sing, memorable, of course, and funny moments that happen while we're on the road, like, a fork in the road, and there's literally a giant fork in the middle of the road, and then they at one point come face to face with Big Bird, yeah, and asking Big Bird, hey there, want a lift? Oh, no thanks. I'm on my way to New York City to try to break into public television. Huh, good luck. And if you get the joke, yeah. And of course, Big Bird, being voiced and Muppeteered by Carol Spinney, yeah. So yeah, again, moving right along, a really good song number, and when it ends, well, they stumble upon a billboard, which being something in advertising for Doc Hopper's Frog Legs, and a picture of Kermit was painted on there, and yeah, Doc Hopper and Max, they pop out, and, well, yeah, again, Doc Hopper, he's not letting Kermit off the hook, he's insisting on Kermit working for him, but Kermit, no way, Jose. and the second time, the myth joke. Myth, and myth randomly pops up. It's funny. And Doc Hopper, he is determined to get Kermit and forcing him to work for him. But Max, by that point, Max, he doesn't like this, and he's refusing to help Doc. But Doc tells Max that he'll double his payment and so on, how Doc says it. And Max goes with it. But yeah. And then Kermit and Fozzie, because they're still on the road and they're looking at a map, and, this is before, say a GPS and so on, and Fozzie, he's not paying attention to the road, because he's looking at the map along with Kermit, and, well, they almost crashed, but thankfully they didn't, and, well, they manage to find their way where a church is. Yeah, they stumble upon a church, they rest for a little bit, and also, there's another joke that pops up a couple of times, being a running gag, and that being, say, because it happened during, the El Sleazo sequence, which being, because that was something to do, and in fact, because it's on the marquee of the church. Yeah, here it is. Like, Hare Krishna, I think I'm saying that right, yeah. It's a running gag, and even Kermit breaking the fourth wall, like, this is going to be a running gag and such. Yeah. And anytime that, it's mentioned, because, whenever someone is lost in the movie, so yeah. And it just so happens that, yeah, on the marquee of this church that they stumbled upon, it's on the marquee, Hare Krishna, and it's funny. So yeah, again, Kermit and Fozzie, they take a stop, right next to a church, and, they go to sleep. But then we hear some music coming from the church, an organ, and then it's rock and roll. And then they go into the church, and they happen to see the one and only, the Electric Mayhem. Yep. And I like the introductions of the members of the Electric Mayhem. He's Dr. Teeth, golden teeth and golden tones. Welcome to my presence. Ha ha ha. Thank you, says Fozzie. And from Floyd, Zoot, Janice, Animal, and along with the Electric Mayhem, being a part of them, Scooter. And Scooter, in this, he's the band's road manager. And they explain that they're turning this old church into a coffee house with music and, and organic refreshments, says Janice. Yeah. Nothing too bad about it, yeah. It seems very fitting. The Electric Mayhem asking, like, what are they doing, and so on, and Fozzie telling the Electric Mayhem, he comes from a swamp, and Kermit telling Fozzie that you don't want to tell them the whole, like, plot and such, you'll bore the audience. And more fourth wall breaking. Only the Muppets can get away / nail at doing fourth wall breaking. Yeah, as long as it's done right. And I'm pretty sure that, yeah, for the Muppets themselves, it's no problem for them doing fourth wall breaking. Yeah. And then Fozzie, he hands Dr. Teeth the screenplay. And yeah, Dr. Teeth reading the first pages of where the movie begins, from the swamp to when Kermit met Fozzie, and when they approach the church, and, they don't look like Presbyterians to me, and Dr. Teeth doing his best impression of Fozzie. And yeah, and apparently, because Dr. Teeth read the whole thing up to where they are right now at the church, meeting the Electric Mayhem, Kermit and Fozzie, they went to sleep. And, well, the Electric Mayhem takes it upon themselves, and by helping out Kermit and Fozzie, because they have to deal and trying to avoid / get away from this Doc Hopper, well, they have to basically have their car be disguised so they're not recognized. So, nice on the Electric Mayhem's part by, again, helping them out, and, well, thus, we come to our next song number, Can You Picture That? It's a really good song from the Electric Mayhem, and, yeah, so, and some of the lyrics pretty funny, and even one where Floyd and Janice sing, yeah, even Santa Claus believes in you. Yeah, so yeah, again, while they're singing Can You Picture That, well, they're painting the Studebaker, and when the song finishes, yeah, the Studebaker is finished being disguised and painted, and looks very nice and colorful, rainbow-ish. And maybe, this time, they will not be recognized, hopefully. And Kermit and Fozzie, they offer the Electric Mayhem to tag along with them, but, Dr. Teeth's telling Kermit, no can do, maybe until you get rich and famous, then we'll consider, and such, yeah. But of course, this is not the last time we see them, because we see them a little later on, but yeah. So, Kermit and Fozzie, in the Studebaker once again, now in disguised, well, yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't last that long, because Max and Hopper, they're on the road trying to find Kermit and Fozzie, and mainly Kermit, and Max happens to spot the frog and the bear in that car in disguised, and yeah, well, so much for that. It could have worked. Well, technically it still does, because they stumble upon this billboard that's rainbowish, and that works. Then Kermit and Fozzie, they come face to face with someone else who would tag along with them, which being, of course, Gonzo the Great. Him, and along with his chicken girlfriend Camilla. And Gonzo, the vehicle that he's driving, basically, he's this wonderful plumber. Yeah. And neither one of them behind the wheel is paying attention and not realizing they're on the same road. They're going to collide into one another. And, well, they do, but, well, where did Gonzo's vehicle go? It flipped over, and now it's upside down on top of the Studebaker. And Gonzo, he's hopping, I'm hopping mad. And Gonzo, he tells Fozzie and Kermit that he has the same dream too, going to Hollywood. Well, not Hollywood, because he said something else of, being a movie star, but still. And Fozzie, at one point, saying, we picked up a weirdo. But not in a bad way, of course, knowing Gonzo. Yeah, so now, Gonzo, along with Camilla, can't forget to mention Camilla, now tagging along with Kermit and Fozzie. And, of course, making them an iconic trio. Gonzo, Kermit, and Fozzie. Yeah, they are. Then at one point, they come to this county fair, and a beauty pageant is happening. And, yeah, the guy who is the host of the beauty pageant, yeah, basically announcing the official winner of the Mrs. County and such, even, like, say, there's a judge that is there, and actually two of them. It's the late legendary Edgar Bergen and one of his dummy characters, Charlie McCarthy, and this would be the last on-screen appearance for Edgar Bergen. Yep. How fitting is that, yeah, because he had guest starred on The Muppet Show, and great to see that he got to be a part of the first ever Muppet film. Not to mention, and if any of you know this, Edgar Bergen being one of Jim Henson's big influences. Yeah, because, hey, without Edgar Bergen, Jim Henson wouldn't be where he would go and such, And not to mention, Edgar Bergen's daughter, Candace Bergen, who would become a star of her own, well, she too guest starring on The Muppet Show. And actually, she guest starred before her daddy guest starred. So, hey, that's interesting. Daughter beat her daddy, appearing on The Muppet Show as a guest star. Yeah, so... And them breaking the fourth wall a little, and Edgar telling Charlie that, come on, Charlie, it's their movie, and oh, yes, and, both of them laughing, yeah. What a nice, adorable last on-screen appearance of Edgar and one of his dummy characters, which, of course, being Charlie, yeah. So again, the beauty pageant happening at the county fair, and yeah, it's the beauty contest Perry, if I'm saying that right, yeah, being played by Elliot Gould. I think I'm saying that right, yeah. Also, there was a moment between him and this girl. They were playing with this balloon or something, and that was a very small cameo by, and she was uncredited, a woman with balloon, Melinda Dillon, who would probably be best known for 2 movies that she was, actually no, 3. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which, yeah, she did a couple of years before appearing in the Muppet movie, A Christmas Story as Miss Parker, and also Harry and the Hendersons. Yep. And also, she was in an episode of The Twilight Zone in the 80s, if you know which one I'm talking about. If you know, you know. Yeah. Which was a pretty good one that she was in. But anyways, so yeah. And the winner of this beauty pageant and such, well, whom else could it be? Yeah, who to win this beauty contest? Miss Piggy, obviously, and of course she had to be in there somewhere, and to, meet and tag along with Kermit and the others, and yeah, her being crowned, the beauty and such of the county fair, and, well... She doesn't take her too long to have eyes and notice Kermit, and, well, one of the next song numbers that we get is, of course, Never Before. It's an okay song. It's not really one of my favorites. I don't know about some of you guys, but... And if anybody, who... I know, like, say, my mom, and that goes for me, too, but no hard feelings on Miss Piggy. There's no denying she's one of the most top popular Muppet characters, and her being Kermit's love interest, Kermit. But still, I don't know, just, to me, some of her songs are kind of forgettable, but... again, just bear with me, Anyways, but yeah, it's a funny, romantic song, love at first sight for Miss Piggy and Kermit. And of course, yeah, Miss Piggy officially tagging along and having a romantic relationship with her Kermit. And, well, at one point, she goes to change her wardrobe and to get some of her suitcases. While she's doing that, Kermit, Fozzie, and Gonzo, they take their time at the county fair. Fozzie, he gets some ice cream for he and Kermit, and the guy, handing out the ice cream, the ice cream vendor, that was, and which being another cameo, the late legendary Bob Hope. Yeah. It's pretty funny, because, yeah, honey, now, pardon me, I hardly know you, and just, yeah. And then, for Gonzo and Camilla, well, both of them, getting a balloon. Well, mainly it's for Camilla, and Camilla has to choose the color, and the guy, handling the balloons, the balloon vendor, is another cameo by the late legendary comedic genius, and it's also the other way around, late comedic legend, I should say, Richard Pryor. Yeah, Richard Pryor making a cameo in the Muppet movie, and the balloon vendor, which being Richard Pryor, recommends to Gonzo, why don't you get both? And just, yeah, and that's technically what happens, but when Miss Piggy steps in, and, well, she's gonna be tagging along with them, but Kermit thought that they would just get ice cream and such, that conversation that they have a little. All of that is interrupted when we see Gonzo holding all of those balloons, he starts to fly into the air, and thus Kermit, Fozzie, Miss Piggy, and Camilla, they have to go after and, get Gonzo down. And yeah, Kermit, commanding and leading this, pursuing to, save/rescue Gonzo. But even at one point, Doc, Hopper, and Max show up once again, but luckily, they stumble upon this billboard that has a piece of pie with cream, and, craziness happening on the road, and when trying to rescue Gonzo from flying with all those balloons, and, with Doc, Hopper, and Max on pursuit, in the end, the pie that was a part of that billboard, it flies on top of Doc and Max in their car, all covered in cream, and, Doc accidentally shooting his gun at the balloons, and Gonzo, he falls and hits on the car. Also, cannot forget to mention this because, there was one moment, and when they had to change cars, and right before they made their way to the county fair, they stumbled upon this place called Madman Mooney's Hubcab Heaven. And, another cameo that we get, and who is running the Hubcab Heaven. What a fitting name that is. And the guy who runs this place, and his name being the name of this car dealer shop and such, Madman Mooney, another cameo, which being the late legendary Milton Berle. And which, by the way, Milton Berle being another guest star on The Muppet Show, and who would wound up, appearing in the Muppet movie. And Madman Mooney offering a car for them, and even getting some help from, he refers to him as Jack, and which being Sweetums. Sweetums, helping out Kermit and the gang, getting a car, even pointing them out to this car that's $11, and they go for it, and Gonzo even telling Madman Mooney, "You owe us," and they get the car, and even Kermit asks Sweetums that, if he wants to tag along with them. "We're all going to Hollywood. You want to come with us? Hollywood, woo!" And he just runs away, and Kermit, finding that strange, and, maybe he got scared or something. They move right along, and once they do, poor Sweetums, because, how are they supposed to know? Because Kermit thought that, again, maybe he got scared and just ran away, I don't know. Sweetums, he does want to tag along with them. He's got his suitcase, and "I want to go to Hollywood," and it's so funny, trying to catch up to them. And we would see him again when, he's still trying to find them, because coming out of this tent and scaring a couple of other, the contestants/competitors of that, that pageant at the county fair, the girls running away, and Sweetums popping out, and "I just gotta catch up with those guys." And to name some of the other Muppeteers, I've already said, say, Jim Henson and Frank Oz. Jim Henson also being the Muppeteer/voices of, again, Kermit, Dr. Teeth, Waldorf, as well as the Swedish Chef. The Swedish Chef is running the theater booth, because the film and such, the screen projector room. Link Hogthrob making an appearance in this, and also Jim was one of Doc Hopper's men. I've always easily missed him, as well as some of the other Muppeteers who played Doc Hopper's other group of men. And Frank Oz, Miss Piggy, Fozzie, Animal, Sam the Eagle, and Sam the Eagle gets a couple of lines, because we mainly see Sam at the private screening. Frank was also one of Doc Hopper's men. He was also Marvin Suggs, the Swedish Chef, the hands, basically, and he was a motorcycle guy. And Jerry Nelson, the late Jerry Nelson, Floyd Pepper, Crazy Harry, Robin the Frog, Lou Zealand, Camilla, and Blue Fraggle. And the late Richard Hunt, Scooter, Stadler, Janice, Sweetums, Beaker, Fozzie Bear. Because most of like not only was Richard Hunt performing some of the top main Muppet characters, he was also being an assistant on the other hands. You know, like say rather if it be say Ernie or maybe Ralph or Fozzie as it shows. Yeah, and Dave Goelz, well, obviously, the Great Gonzo, Zoot, Dr. Bunsen Honeydew, Dog Lion, yeah, and someone in the El Sleazo Cafe, and also Nigel and a pig. So, and some of the additional Muppeteers, because I'm pretty sure they were credited, yeah. Well, and especially towards the end of the film, two most notable people that were guest Muppeteers. Yeah, wait until I mention them. And if you already know this, it's really cool. So yeah. So again, the whole thing of Sweetums, and after saving Gonzo, well, Miss Piggy, for how heroic and how Kermit was being such a leader and commanding, well, Miss Piggy offering both her and Kermit to have dinner, to go on a date, just the two of them. Even Gonzo, he was wanting to join in, but of course that's not going to happen. So, that's when we see Kermit and Miss Piggy having dinner at this restaurant, which being called the Terrace Restaurant. Yeah, it's a night spot where, yeah, Kermit and Miss Piggy have their romantic dinner date. And just so happens that another memorable cameo we get, and who is their waiter, and of course, you know, he did not disappoint. He's always funny. Good old Steve Whitmire. Yeah, Steve Whitmire making a cameo in this at the restaurant. He was the insolent waiter. Yeah, acting like that kind of waiter, just, yeah, I'll be right there, stuff like that. He just wanted to get this over with. And also, funny enough, we see his character, the waiter, in shorts, and we see his legs, and which is pretty funny. To top it off, making his cameo hilarious. Then at one point, and after they've eaten, and they were almost about to kiss, Kermit and Piggy, but the waiter called up Miss Piggy, a phone for Miss Piggy, and yeah, her receiving a phone call, and apparently time goes by a little, and she never came back. What's the holdup? Like, how long has this phone call been has she been taking this phone call? Then, at one point, Kermit meets this piano player at the restaurant, which being, if it's not obvious already, Ralph the dog. Yep, Ralph the dog and Kermit, they start to interact, and they do a piano duet, and they have a song number of their own, and talking about, you know, women and, you know, can't live without them and such. It's pretty funny. And, yeah, and the song that they have, which being, yeah, I hope that something better comes along. Yeah, it's a pretty good song number for both Kermit and Ralph. You know, not to mention, because, yeah, it's both Kermit and Ralph, Jim, duo singing himself, you know, dual singing, a duo, etc., yeah. And actually, fun fact, this comes from Steve Whitmire, because, yeah, Steve Whitmire, being one of the additional Muppeteers, and also, he was another one of those Muppeteers who was an assistant, you know, operating the hands of, you know, the hand Muppets. And of course, Ralph being one of them. So he was doing Ralph, and apparently Steve Whitmire explained that, well, underneath him was a monitor, because all of the Muppeteers having monitors so they can see what they're doing, right? So Steve got his nose up close to the monitor, and there was a shock, just, oh, I can imagine how painful that would have been, yeah. But in the end, I mean, Steve Whitmire turned out okay. Of course he did, and, you know, with how long, you know, he had to deal with that, because it wasn't gonna go away that easily, like that, you know, because being electrocuted by the tip of the nose, and, oh, it's painful. I hope some of you have heard of that story, because he shared it at a convention he was at with, you know, other fellow Muppeteer Kevin Clash. All right, anyways, but yeah. So again, the song number that Kermit and Ralph had is pretty good. And after that, well, Kermit receives a phone call, and well, and we see and discover like where Miss Piggy is and why she never came back to their table. Well, Doc Hopper phones Kermit and has Miss Piggy held hostage. And if Kermit does not turn himself over, then bad things will happen to Miss Piggy. So Kermit obliges, and well, he has no other choice. And of course, in order to save Miss Piggy, he turns himself in, and yeah. Then another cameo that we get, and who is assisting slash helping Doc Hopper with, Kermit and such, is Professor Max Krassman. Yeah. Being played by the legendary Mel Brooks. Yeah, how awesome is that, seeing Mel Brooks in something The Muppets, Well, and this wouldn't be the first and last time, because one of the other later times that Mel Brooks would be in something else, Muppets related, would be in It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas. He was the voice of that Burl Ives snowman wannabe. If you know, you know. Pretty funny. So yeah, and basically this machine that they're using, and even the professor explaining to Doc Hopper this thing which being called, and basically the professor is a German scientist, and this whole thing of electronic cerebric autonomy, I think, yeah, I'm saying that right. And it's a device meant to turn the brains into guacamole. And yeah, they're going to use it on Kermit. But thankfully, Miss Piggy, she breaks loose of the rope and such and takes on Doc Hopper's men. Yeah, and Doc Hopper, by that point, I think, yeah, he had already left the room. So it's only some of Doc Hopper's men as well as the professor. And Miss Piggy, being, pardon my French, a badass and taking on Doc Hopper's men. Even when we see Miss Piggy's eyes wide open, that whole thing. And even say when we would see her later on with those angry eyes, Tell me that didn't freak you out, some of you, that didn't freak you out with Miss Piggy's eyes. It didn't to me, but, but yeah, so Miss Piggy, she takes them down instantly, and unfortunately for the poor professor, he gets attached to the machine, like it hits on him, and just now he's acting like a frog. Ribbit, ribbit, and he tips over. Yeah. Well, yeah, so now that's taken care of. Well, what happens next is Miss Piggy, she receives a phone call, I think, yeah, from her agent, something to do for a commercial, and she takes it and just, deliberately just leaves Kermit, All she says to Kermit is, bye! Yeah, what a dick move on her, don't you think? Well, she's technically done that before. I even recall in one episode of The Muppet Show she did that, but if you know, you know, so yeah. And after that, well, of course, this obviously upsets Kermit, but then at one point, the screen just, yeah, it starts to get messed up and such, and well, because yeah, the Swedish Chef having some trouble in the projection room, but yeah, then he, solves the problem and saying, the flame is okie dokie, and yeah, and Robin, he tells everyone that he is having a great time, no matter what others say, and another funny joke from Stadler and Waldorf, and well, yeah, the movie is back up and running, and Kermit pointing out to Robin, big patriotic part, and Robin asking Kermit, should we stand up for this? And no, not necessary. And yeah, we get a bit of a montage of really beautiful shots of, well, basically America, even like, say, shots of, yeah, because, Mount Rushmore, or say, I think the Grand Canyon. Yeah, might have to go back on that a little, to see, but, yeah. And Fozzie singing, America, America. And we see Ralph the dog tagging along with them. Yeah, it's just Kermit, Fozzie, Gonzo, Camilla, and Ralph. No Miss Piggy, because we know what she did. However, at one point, they happen to stumble upon and come up to see that, yeah, Piggy is on the side of the road, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, She must have felt guilty doing that. Yeah, and she's trying to apologize to them. Well, not just for Kermit, but nice on Fozzie, Gonzo, and Ralph's part. Yeah, because they're just like, even Ralph, like, yeah, because he asked them, should we help her with her bags? And they don't need to, because after what she pulled. But yeah, Miss Piggy feeling so guilty about this, but well, how hurt Kermit was by this, he's not going to immediately forgive her, so yeah. Then, we come back to Doc Hopper. He has his men being trained to shoot and take down Kermit. And, at one point, Doc Hopper hired this very well-trained bounty hunter, the Frog Killer, being played by Scott Walker, this highly trained, frog killer who possibly can easily take down Kermit and get him for Doc Hopper. And even Doc Hopper, he gets on a radio and even, warning Kermit about this frog killer he's hired, and just, yeah. Also, to name some of the other cast members that appear in this movie, like, some of the people at the El Sleazo bar, there was a sailor, played by Lawrence Gabriel Jr., because Fozzie Bear making a joke about a big fat sailor. How fat was he? And the bartender being played by Aria, I think that's how his first name is pronounced. Pretty sure, again, you know me sometimes. F. Grubman, and Fozzie, he landed on him and he took his, fake beard and, hat and such, getting the people in the El Sleazo bar to, telling them, drinks on the house, and I forgot to mention that they're literally on the rooftop and, there's no drinks. They fell for it. Are they that dumb? Just, And there was a lumberjack being played by H.B. Haggerty, and also, there was a one-eyed midget being played by Tommy Maiden, and there was a waiter being played by James Frawley, and Cowboy being played by Arnold Roberts, and Steve Whitmire, he was Fletcher Bird and Scooter. Oh yeah, operating and assisting Muppeteering Scooter when Richard was not performing Scooter. Some of the other additional Muppeteers, Catherine Mullen, assisting, performing, and Muppeteering Camilla. The other Muppet performers, as they're credited, Bob Payne, Aaron Osger, Carolee Wilcox, Ogla Flegmetcher, if I'm saying that right, Bruce Schwartz, and also Michael Earl. He was assistants to Animal, Beaker, Big Bird, Dr. Teeth, Fozzie Bear, Janice, Scooter, and also Buzz, Sir Sassy, if I'm saying that right, Tony Basilisato, and Adam Hunt, and of course Carol Spinney. I think, he just did the voice of Big Bird. So he probably wasn't actually there when they filmed Big Bird as Fozzie and Kermit passed by him, And some of the other Muppet performers that are uncredited, there's Chuck Aber, there's Cosmo Allegretti, there's Peter Allen, there's Fran Allison, Charles Altman, Sherry Admit, Debbie Sue Anderson, Dawn Avery, Bill Baird, Peter Baird, Bob Baker, Helen Mary Ball, Bill Barker, Tim Barnes, Eric Bass, Laura Bennett, Chuck Birdie, Joyce Birdie, Bob Black, Charlotte Black, Benjamin Blake, Cheryl Blaylock, Jay Blue, Janet Bradley, Reg Bradley, Richard Bradshaw. I could go on. Man, that's a lot of Muppet performers that were uncredited. Well, because, there were a lot of Muppets who appeared at the very end of the film, but until I get there, as well as two familiar faces who were very special additional Muppet performers, until I get there. So, again, Doc Hopper, he radioed in on Kermit, warning him and such about this frog killer he's hired. But then at one point, the car that they were driving in, and Fozzie still being at the wheel, it breaks down in the middle of nowhere. So, later that evening, they camp for the night, and, well, they're kind of feeling down, especially Kermit, because he feels that this is his fault and for dragging everyone to come with him and such, how he feels. And the next song number that we get, which is a pretty good one, and I'm pretty sure, this was one of Jim Henson's favorite song numbers. Heck, it was performed at his funeral, some of his all-time favorite songs, and this being one of them, sung by Dave Gonzo, I'm Going to Go Back There Someday. It is a pretty good song, and, Dave Goelz as Gonzo having a really good, soft singing voice. Ugh, yeah, it's really good. It really is. Yeah. So then there's a moment for Kermit. He walks off, having some alone time. But then he then starts to talk to himself, his subconscious or something, And his other self tells him and assures him that none of this is his fault. And from Fozzie, Gonzo, Miss Piggy, those that tagged along with him, they willingly, they wanted to do this. They wanted to tag along with him because all of them having the same dream as he does. And sure enough, Kermit realizes that, it's okay. And then at one point, Kermit, he walks back to his new friends and, he heard some music playing. The Electric Mayhem is there, and how they knew where they would be? Well, they left the screenplay with them, and they knew exactly where they would be. At that page, and, out in the middle of nowhere, in a desert, So now, the Electric Mayhem, along with Scooter, they now are a part of the group and tagging along with Kermit and the others, and thus, riding on the Electric Mayhem bus and, singing an instrumental version of Moving Right Along, and Miss Piggy still trying to talk with Kermit and such, and it seems as though that, things do get patched up between Kermit and Miss Piggy, but then at one point, Kermit points out that there's a motorcycle cop chasing them and, asking Dr. Teeth to pull over, and if you look closely, there's a picture of Big Bird that Dr. Teeth, don't want to get my doctors mixed up. Dr. Teeth, at the front of the wheel, has a picture of Big Bird. If any of you noticed that, how can you not? Because it's so obvious. How can you miss the bird, the yellow bird? And, the motorcycle cop coming up to the Electric Mayhem bus, and he reveals himself to be Max. He's in disguise, and he's warning them on what Doc Hopper is doing, and that he's really going to hurt Kermit, and so on. So at least he's on their side. He doesn't want to see Kermit get hurt. Nice on Max's part. And Kermit asking Dr. Teeth what's up ahead, and Dr. Teeth telling Kermit, oh, just an old ghost town. And Kermit telling Max to go back and give Doc a message that he'll be waiting for Doc at the up-ahead ghost town. And Kermit, he tells Max and the others that he can't spend the rest of his life, running away from a bully. Because, he's got to do something about this. He's not gonna let this keep dragging, right? Something has to be done. And also, more on Dr. Teeth, because right before Max came up, Dr. Teeth saying, the cops, the fuzz, the P.I., don't you even think about it, says Miss Piggy, and Dr. Teeth, obliging this, just, I wouldn't think of it. In respect for Miss Piggy, so even Dr. Teeth knows that he should not mess with the pig, so nice on you, Dr. Teeth. What happens next is they approach this old ghost town, even a skeleton horse, we see that, and it falls over, it just crumbles. And Kermit, looking around the ghost town, even Floyd, he asked Kermit if Animal can take a walk, and so now Floyd and Animal are walking around, and at one point, Kermit stumbles upon this, machine that activates itself. It's like a musical fountain or whatever, and out pops Dr. Bunsen Honeydew and his assistant, Beaker. They're in the ghost town, and they have their own laboratory in the ghost town, Muppet Labs and such. And, Dr. Bunsen Honeydew and Beaker doesn't take them that long to join with Kermit and the others, and there's one moment where Floyd and Animal notice this jar of growing pills and the details that Dr. Bunsen Honeydew explains to them on that. Just, yeah. And sure enough, we see Doc Hopper and his men arrive, and Kermit ready to face off against Doc Hopper. He's wearing cowboy boots and with spurs and a cowboy hat. The big showdown. And Kermit basically setting Doc Hopper straight, on, he needs to stop doing this, and, him acting like a bully and such, and explaining to Doc that he found a group of friends and they all have a dream. And, even Kermit asking Doc, about his friends, do you have any friends and such? And Doc Hopper pointing out Max, but Max, no, he wants no part of this. I don't blame him. And Kermit, he's, trying to convince Doc, and maybe there should be some good in him, right? And to let him and the others go. If not, then, he can kill him and such. And Doc Hopper, he has a little moment and staring at Kermit and such, and, well, when it seemed like maybe could he possibly be redeemed, is he gonna let Kermit off the hook? Well, what he says next is, all right, boys, kill him. And no, he does not let them off. Jeez, that was unexpected, you'd think. And actually, fun fact about that, Jim Henson was wanting Doc Hopper to be redeemed, but Frank Oz encouraged Henson to not do it, and yeah. And also, where the heck is Animal? Because we see all of the other Muppets, around Kermit, and they're behind him. Where's Animal? Well, right before Doc Hopper's men start to shoot their guns off on Kermit, well, this rumbling and shaking happens, and, well, out popping from the one building where, the Muppet Labs is Animal. He took some of those growing pills, and now he becomes humongous. And that was amazing because they practically built a life-size head version of Animal. And even originally, we were supposed to see his hands sticking out, but they removed that. And if any of you have seen photos of that, yeah, well, it still turned out fine, with it just being his head. And yeah, Animal scaring off Doc Hopper and the rest of his men, and Max just, ha-ha, like waving his hat, and yeah, glad to see that Kermit is okay and he and his friends can proceed on. Yeah, so that's what happens. Doc Hopper is defeated once and for all. Kermit and the gang proceed on to Hollywood, and thus making their way to that movie studio, Worldwide Studios, yeah, and going to meet this big-time guy in the business, and yeah. However, the Lord, that's how he's referred to, the Lord's secretary, and another cameo we get, which being Cloris Leachman, the late Cloris Leachman, she is the Lord's secretary. She's not letting them go in to see her boss, and, and Kermit explaining to her that, because of what he read in the papers, and he's wanting to, be in show business and make millions of people happy, but the Lord's secretary telling Kermit that you just can't walk in and such, and especially with all these animals, and they're offended by this, and they just confront her about it, and her telling them, this is a movie studio and such, not a zoo. And secondly, achoo, I like when she sneezes, all of the Muppets are just like, they're startled by her sneezing. Well, I mean, it wasn't a loud sneeze, like, achoo! Like, no, nothing like that. She also explains that she's allergic to animal hair, and, well, they go sit by the seats, and, well, she was about to call security, but then, I think, yeah, Animal, he turned on a fan, and, well, the Muppets, they start to shake their hair, and it sends their way to the secretary, and some of the dialogue that the Muppet says, and I even very clearly heard Ralph saying, I'm allergic to cats myself, and yeah, the Lord Secretary, she does give in, and she opens the door, buzzing and such, yeah. So, Kermit and the gang proceed on to meet with whom is running this movie studio, and that being Lou Lord. Yeah, and one of the last cameos we get is, and how fitting was this? And because the fact that this was the first Muppet film, Orson Welles. Yeah. How awesome is that they got Orson Welles? And he plays Lew Lord, and whom they're meeting, and Kermit explaining to Lew Lord that he wants to audition and so on. And it doesn't take too long for Lew Lord to, have them proceed on and having everything set up for them to go big time and such. Well, even though that Kermit and the others, they don't have really anything. They don't have a script or anything, but they just go with it, and that's what happens. They find themselves in this big sound stage, and, well, they have the props, everything ready, and one of the last song numbers we get is The Magic Store. It's pretty good. And yeah, funny things happening with the Muppets, and we would see Crazy Harry there running the lights and such. Yeah, not very clever / a good idea to leave Crazy Harry with that, but at the same time, that's his thing, so how can you not? Crazy Harry loved lights and such, how he says it. And of course, yeah, they're basically going to film the whole adventure / journey they have. They're going to recreate that with the props they have and such, yeah. And yeah, when lights, camera, rolling, action happens, well, they start to sing the last, a re-rendition of Rainbow Connection. Yep, that being another one of the last songs that we get. But yeah, it's a re-rendition, reprised version. And it's going along pretty good, except for Gonzo, because like what happened, he's holding on to the balloons, and he causes pretty much the entire set to collapse. And, well, Crazy Harry, he starts to, go out of control with the lights, just, sparks, flying, and even causing the rooftop of the soundstage to break. And, well, out popping from the rooftop is a rainbow. And, well, Kermit and all the other Muppets finishing off the reprised version of Rainbow Connection, Life's Like a Movie, Write Your Own Ending, that whole thing. It's really nicely done, and when the camera pans out, a buttload of Muppets are there, you name it. Muppets from Sesame Street, some that appeared on Saturday Night Live, those Muppets that appeared on the very first show of Saturday night, if you know, you know. Even some of the characters from Emmett Otter's Junk Band Christmas appear as well. And yeah, and as I mentioned, because yeah, a lot of additional Muppet performers, and yeah, most of them being uncredited, but there are two, actually, because, well, Jim Henson's entire family were some of the uncredited Muppet performers. Brian, Heather, Cheryl, John, and Jim's wife, Jane. Lisa, well, okay, yeah, Lisa is not there, but yeah. As well, oh, even Jerry Jewell, he was one of the other uncredited Muppet performers, yeah. Well, two other additional special Muppet performers, and specifically Muppeteered some of those Muppets for the Rainbow Connection finale, that epic shot with all the Muppets. Well, two of them are John Landis and Tim Burton. Yep. If any of you do or do not know this, yeah, John Landis and Tim Burton were one of those two, special additional Muppet performers. That's very nice. John Landis stated this, and yeah, he pointed out that both he and Tim Burton, they were there performing some of those Muppets. John Landis stated that he got to perform Grover. Nice, nice. As for Tim Burton, even I tried looking, and even there is a picture where we see all of the Muppet performers, we see their faces, even you can see Tim Burton and John Landis there, but it's hard to tell which Muppet Tim Burton was specifically operating. I mean, we know where he is, but we can't make out which one it is. I mean, if any of you know this, by any chance, feel free to let me know in the comments section. Why didn't John Landis even say which Muppet he performed? Especially Tim Burton. Why did he not say anything about this? Beats me, but yeah. But that was a great way to end it off, and, the words, the end. But there's one Muppet missing, especially from that huge group of Muppets. Well, out pops Sweetums. He breaks through the screen projection, and yeah, he finally showed up, and Sweetums, I just knew I could make it, and yeah. The movie ending off, and we get the end credits, and we see more where, yeah, the Muppets are interacting, the aftermath of the screening, and that was very nice that, what they did, and during the end credits, we see more. There's no reason to get out of your seats just yet. And yeah, each of the Muppets interacting with one another, even Sam, he said to Scooter, it was sick and weird. And even, say, one moment where Sweetums hits a couple of chickens, he even eats one of New Zealand's fishes, and yeah. And some of the Muppets, they are asleep, like Zoot and, Waldorf, yeah. And Animal, to finish off the film, and right as the credits finish, Animal breaking the fourth wall and telling us, the audience, go home! Go home! Bye-bye. And he falls behind his back and, well, boom, the movie ends, but right before it ends, a dedication to Edgar Bergen. It's very sweet and nice. Yeah. What a great way to end off the Muppet movie. Yeah, the Muppet movie it's amazing, and for this being the first ever Muppet film, it's no disappointment from beginning to end. The story, the cast of Muppet characters, and with the Muppet movies, cameos, memorable cameos of, iconic movie stars at that time, the songs, memorable, of course, the funny and emotional moments, the action and the sequences, all that happens, crazy shenanigans that you would expect from the Muppets. Yeah, just what more do I have to say? The Muppet movie is a Muppet masterpiece, without a doubt. And I'm giving the Muppet movie, if it's not obvious, 10 out of 10 stars. Yes, 10 out of 10 stars for the Muppet movie. And what about you guys? What did you think of the Muppet movie itself? Was it, by any chance, one of your first Muppet films that you watched, and how fitting, because it is the very first Muppet movie? Is it one of your top favorite Muppet films? What was the very first time you watched this? Rather say on TV, video, DVD, Blu-ray? By any chance seen this in theaters, a special screening event? What are some of your favorite songs, your favorite moments, your favorite Muppet characters, your favorite cameos? Just, yeah, what more do I have to say? Overall, what do you think of the Muppet movie itself? And with what I've had to say, my review, and yeah, what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of the Muppet movie. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I will see you guys in the next video / review. And stay tuned later tonight, because what I will be reviewing next, well, as I mentioned earlier, the 1970s were a big decade for some pretty big successful films, and during that same year, when the Muppet movie came out, another big film, which, by the way, this being the first ever film on something that, well, it boldly went where no one had gone before. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you know exactly what it is that I'm talking about. Again, stay tuned for that. Take care, and peace out. Waka waka waka!